What's going on, guys? We're back with the Real Bodybuilding Podcast. This is episode number 94, I think. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm here with Jason Poston. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing, man?
Good. I just started the recording without really talking to you beforehand because the real reason I wanted to have you on today was to talk about insulin, and you've had a little bit of a blood sugar drop kind of before this started. Can you turn your phone? I don't know if that'll work.
Oh, yeah.
Just to get more of you. There you go.
I meant to ask you that. Yeah. Let me set this up.
Yeah, we kind of started weird because of everything that's going on. So tell me what happened. So you were supposed to be on at 12. We're a little late because of blood sugar issues. So tell me kind of what happened so people can kind of understand.
Yeah. Man, unfortunately, this has been happening more often than the recent years, which is a lot to discuss. I changed my medication protocol. So I changed my insulin protocol, right?
Yeah.
This thing out better, man. Hopping in.
So before you start, can you tell everybody, are you you're type 1 diabetic?
Yeah. So I'm type 1 diabetic.
Okay.
Insulin dependent. Autoimmune is the source, autoimmune disorder. So a lot of people, first off, most people don't know the difference between type 1 and type 2. I'd assume most people that watch your podcast do. But still, when I was diagnosed, I didn't know the difference. I was like, wait, I'm not fat. I can't be diabetic. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So they shouldn't even be called the same name.
Can you clear up for people? Let's just pretend whoever's watching doesn't know anything. What's the difference between type 1 and type 2?
Type 1 is insulin dependent.
Okay.
All right. So you either produce no insulin or you produce so little that you need insulin. You need a synthetic insulin made by a pharmacy, right? So you have to inject insulin pretty much every single meal.
Okay.
And more than that. And then type 2 is most common a lifestyle disease. They'll tell you genetic. It's not. That's false. But maybe some people are more genetically susceptible to it. But really, you can avoid type 2 with proper eating patterns and proper healthy lifestyle. So I'm stuck with it. Type 2 is preventable.
Yep.
And so, that requires me to take insulin morning and night in a basal dose. All right. Okay. And I'm going to remind your viewers, like I'm talking a little slow right now. We'll probably pick up because I'm coming out of a crazy low.
Yeah. Let's tell everybody what happened. So I messaged you and you said you had a blood sugar drop. So how does that happen? What happens there?
I mean, I was fine. I had my breakfast this morning and then my blood sugar started to climb. And to be honest, this time it was my fault. It's completely my fault. You can't blame it on diabetes this time. You can't blame it on type 1. So my insulin was climbing really high to an unhealthy level. It reached over 200.
Okay.
So in North America, healthy blood sugar is 80 to 120. So I climbed all the way to 200, which is a rate. It's not healthy. You start producing ketones. You don't absorb as many nutrients. You start to become dehydrated. You can start to piss out a lot of your water and become dehydrated. So when it hits 200, I immediately want to bring it down. Well, I brought it down with a drug called Insulin. All right. Not just insulin. So I hit the insulin. I inject myself to bring it back down so I can get on the phone call and not be having to rush to go pee while we're on a podcast.
Yeah.
But the Insulin is not insulin. It's actually a drug made for chemo patients. Okay. And chemo patients become extremely insulin resistant from the chemotherapy. Yeah. Like they can become a diabetic while they're getting chemo.
Okay.
But the benefit of this drug is it can bring down your blood sugar without using insulin, which when you use insulin, you become insulin resistant. So basically the more I'm pinning myself and using insulin all the time, like, it's all, I become insulin resistant. Okay. And that's bad. We don't want that.
Yeah, of course.
Because then I have to go low carb for maybe a day, 2 days, maybe up to 3 days in order to get my insulin sensitivity back.
Okay. So forgive me if this is a stupid question, but I'm probably going to ask a lot of them during this podcast, but how do you get your insulin sensitivity back if your body's not producing insulin? Like it's confusing to me, right? Because if you're not producing your own insulin, why does the sensitivity or resistance matter to you? You can control it all. Don't you control it all synthetically anyway?
That's a great question. Well, I get my sensitivity back to the synthetic insulin. So not my own body's insulin sensitivity, which I think there is a tiny, tiny amount. Like you can do in-depth tests and they can test my blood and see how much insulin I'm producing. And I forget the measurement, to be honest, but it's like basically nothing. It's like, I mean, if I didn't have insulin, my blood sugar would climb so high. Even if I didn't eat, it would climb high and it could possibly put me in a coma. Right.
Okay.
But so my daily regimen is to remain sensitive to the synthetic insulin. Okay. So the Humalogs, the Fios, the Apidras, the Novolog. Okay. You know, so that's why I use the Simlin, but the Simlin shot me down so hard. It drops blood sugar at like a crazy, almost at a dangerous rate. Yeah. A lot of diabetics won't touch it, but I can handle it. Yeah. But in this case, I overdid it and it shot me down. I was just sweating in my bathroom, like texting you, like, "Hey man, I'm gonna be late." I'm like, I had to change my clothes and everything because my shirt was all drenched in sweat.
I've been there. I've been there for my own stupid reasons. So what did you do to get your blood sugar to the 200? Like, what did you do wrong for breakfast?
Man,
is there something
what pisses me off. It was just a cup of oatmeal.
But is it something different than you've done before, or just you can't necessarily always gauge how it's going to react?
I can't gauge it this year. This 2020 and the beginning of this year has sucked. It's because the health coverage in the United States has gotten so shady with top tier drugs, like the good drugs that elite fitness people and bodybuilders need. Like if you're a type 1 diabetic and you want to be a pro athlete, call it even a high school, you need top tier drugs. You don't need the Walmart special insulin mixture stuff. It just doesn't work as well. That's for like old people who barely move.
So forgive me, this is another stupid question, but so is Humalog is a brand name, or is Humalog a type of insulin?
Humalog is a type of insulin.
So is all Humalog equal, or is it's like when you say the Walmart brand?
It's a brand.
I know, but I'm saying like you're saying the top tier drugs. So I guess people would say, isn't insulin? Or is there like?
You ask great questions. I mean, that's because to me, it's like, I live with it every day, but no, Humalog is like Nike or Under Armour. All right. Yeah. So, there's a manufacturer that makes Humalog, right? Like there's a manufacturer that makes supplements. Yeah. So they make Humalog, and Humalog is the most reliable that the most people use, but it's not necessarily the top tier insulin because it acts a little slower. So I prefer newer drugs. They're more efficient as far as less water retention. Yeah. They react super quick in the body. Like the one I just showed you earlier, this one, Fios. Yeah. This one reacts in 3 minutes. It's the fastest acting insulin there is besides inhalable insulin. Yeah. And so this one is better for me, in my opinion, than like Humalog. Humalog, I think it's 8 minutes. Maybe.
Okay, but so Humalog is, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't it last like 4 hours in the body?
Yeah. It can last 4 hours, but this is where it gets crazy. It also depends on the person's metabolism, depends on how active they are, depends on how hydrated they are, depends on how much sleep they're getting. So that's why insulin is such a controversial yet interesting drug, because it's all different. It reacts different in different people's bodies. Yeah. But yeah, Humalog is the old like general guideline, and that's what I was saying. Like that's why it was crazy from this morning, because I lost a drug, a pill that I was taking. So I am very like off pattern. You know, like that's what doctors tell me. They're like, oh man, and they find it interesting because like I do my own insulin protocol different from what they recommend, but yet most of my doctors end up kind of adopting what I do anyway. And in fact, my doctor has 2 type 1 diabetic sons, and he uses my protocol somewhat. So
why do you do your own protocol, and where did you get it from? Was it trial and error?
No, it was it was a little bit of trial and error. So like the first year I was just trying to wing it, you know, and actually got my pro card and like really not knowing what I was doing in physique. I got my pro card in physique, you know, but I learned everything as far as like off pattern insulin use from Colette Nelson. Colette Nelson was the first type 1 diabetic female pro. And she was also the first IFBB pro to make it to the Olympia as a type 1.
Yeah.
So she taught me, like, I got my pro card without her, but I was like 300. My blood sugar is 300 on stage. Like, I was so unhealthy and dehydrated, not because of diuretics, but because of like just high blood sugar.
Yeah.
So she taught me this whole, it's not like it's crazy. It's not like it's a science project. It's just that use top tier drugs, stay up to date with new medication that's coming out. Because doctors, most likely, they just want you to stay in the system that they know. And it's a lot of old school drugs, decades old. And so when I help people, I teach them the same thing, much more conservative. Like, I don't teach them, you know, we don't want them crashing right before they go to work or doing something like this. So I don't recommend Insulin to a lot of people because of that reason. They need to know, it can't kill you, straight up. It's reality.
Yeah.
But
so I want to tell people before we go on, we've already alluded to it. We kind of jumped right into the interview, but so Jason is a top tier men's physique competitor. Are you retired fully now or no?
Yeah, I think so.
So your best placing at the Olympia was third?
Yeah, third place.
Okay. So you're an Olympia level men's physique competitor who's now semi-retired. We'll say that. Is that fair?
Yeah. Watching your podcast don't help. You know, you got so many inspiring people on here, you know.
Dude, trust me, doing my podcast doesn't help. I'm trying to fucking retire, and these guys keep fucking pulling me back. Okay, so I think the interesting thing is there's so much to talk about with insulin, but one, I think there's people out there I get messages from that are diabetics, and they first thing they ask me is it possible for me to be a bodybuilder from diabetic? And I don't know what the answer is because I don't know enough about it. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring you on and say, look, you made it to the very top, being a diabetic. So what is holding them back, and what did you do to kind of overcome anything that might have been in your way to kind of turn pro and get to the very top of the game?
You know, first thing is you have to know your food. I mean, as a bodybuilder, as a competitor in general, you need to know your macronutrients. It blows my mind how some people are actually pretty damn, you know, high up in bodybuilding, and yet they kind of just eat whatever because they have such amazing genetics. Yeah. And then I'm like, man, if you understood how food assimilates and how the blood sugar response in food, you would be an even better bodybuilder, you know? So I was always interested. It was kind of like one of those things where I always had an interest in bodybuilding anyway. And I just had assumed, you know, I'll never be successful at it because of my genetics. Yeah. And I was, you know, natural up until I was 30. So I went the sport route. Fitness, you know, I love fitness, but I mean, I had every magazine there was with Jay and Flex, Ronnie. I mean, I'm here in Dallas, Texas. So I grew up watching Branch, had college classes with Johnny Jackson. Yeah. And in PE, like college PE, which you know is a joke. Yeah. Johnny, side story here. Johnny, like in PE in college, it was hilarious watching him load up every amount of weight on the bar. And this is right when he was powerlifting too. So he was just turning into a bodybuilder. Yeah. And he was just like this spectacle in college PE, like the biggest traps ever. And that was my first like bodybuilder that I met that was pro. I'm like, okay. But so anyways, like I got interested in bodybuilding whenever I turned type 1 at 30 years old, because I had researched so much. I'm like, oh, I get to use insulin now. Like, okay,
wait, sorry, I had to stop you. So you turned type 1 diabetic at 30?
Yeah, it was 30.
So it just it's just something that happened genetically. You said it was autoimmune. So it wasn't anything you did to cause it.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's the first thing you want is answers. And I couldn't get any. They just said, they said genetic, and I was like, there's not a history of any type 1s in my family ever, but we'll call it genetic, whatever it was, since we don't know. I have my speculations, but it wasn't. I searched around. I mean, I drank a lot of alcohol on the weekends in my 20s. Like, I wasn't like an alcoholic or anything like that, but I was your party guy.
Yeah.
I was always a trainer and nutritionist, but on my weekends, man, I went out with my friends. I was like the football, beer drinking, watching,
I did the same thing.
Beer bonging, like
upside down or no? You ever do upside down beer bongs?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
The keg stands and all that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought that was my first question. What, can I drink myself into type 1 diabetes? Like, man, you would have to be a severe alcoholic to completely kill your pancreas. So they didn't have any answers. So I was like, okay, maybe bodybuilding is for me now, because I don't know how to manage my blood sugar as a basketball player. I played a lot of flag football and softball and soccer. So I was playing all sorts of different sports, and I had to stop it because my blood sugar crashed every single time.
Okay.
So bodybuilding was where I fit in. It was like, okay, I'll sit and pump, sit and lift. I did notice an increase in strength too, like coming from being, natural to now only being on insulin.
Yeah.
I noticed, like, I was like, after 8 weeks, I was like, man, all my lifts are going up. I was eating absolutely perfect. Yeah. But that was like, your question was like, hey, how does one get started as a type 1 diabetic and competing? It's just like, well, I ate the same thing every day.
Yeah.
I researched bodybuilding diets. I mean, I was already a nutritionist, but I didn't know how to eat like a bodybuilder. But I, read stuff like from people like you and people who publish articles. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to have to go low carb, but let me just eat the same thing every day and see if I can control my blood sugar.
Yeah.
There was no goal like, oh, I'm going to go be a bodybuilder right now. It's just like, let me see if I can put on muscle.
So why was your blood sugar more stable while bodybuilding, just because it's less active? Like, you're not doing as much running, and like, why couldn't you play any other sports? It was just too much for
the rate at which you burn glucose is just so much faster with athletics.
Okay.
In the bodybuilding world, I mean, we could do the same thing. Me and you could do giant sets with only a minute rest in between each giant set and probably get the same effect. Mm-hmm. So in the bodybuilding world, I think like guys don't reach that. I don't think they ever reach your anaerobic threshold, right? Where a high heart rate, but they do burn a lot of glucose, but it's only like when they're cutting. It's only like those last weeks. It depends on the guy's metabolism. But for me, it was more simple because I have such a fast metabolism that I could just, do a set and rest, Whereas before, I mean, I was almost training like a CrossFit athlete, like a cross training, like everyone. I don't get into CrossFit too much because I was just doing a lot of exercises back to back.
Yeah.
I was training for performance. Yeah. And that didn't work anymore with diabetes.
So you started bodybuilding at 30, is what you're saying, pretty much.
Pretty much, man. I'm all over the place. But when I was 27, I did win a fitness model contest.
So it sounds to me like you did some weight training, but you got serious about bodybuilding at 30. Would that make sense?
Like that pro card, when I found out Physique was an option, I was like, boom, done. I've won fitness model contests before. So let me actually give this 100%. I'm kind of stuck with diabetes forever. So let me use this insulin because I had read that, bodybuilders could get big. Yeah. So my preconceived misconception was I'm going to get as big as Fouad, like that. I'm going to get as big as Phil. I'm going to get as big as like all these dudes quick because I get prescription insulin now. Well, it kind of was cool. I mean, maybe I gained 10 pounds, but I didn't get massive, like, the Hulk, I mean.
Yeah. So you did some fitness model competitions in your 20s.
Yeah.
How many?
Hani Rambod. That was the big deal. Like, I didn't know. Actually, no, I did know who Hani Rambod was. Yeah. So the Europas, I think you did. Did you do any Europa shows?
Yeah, I did 2000. If you're talking about your 20s, maybe the 2008 and 9.
Yeah, in Dallas.
Yeah, 2008 Europa. I took third. I qualified. That was my first qualification for the Olympia.
Oh, hold on. Did
you
Kai
might have
win that one?
Oh no, that was later on. No, I never competed at a show with Kai. I don't think.
Who won the 2008 Dallas?
Dennis James, I think, or Tony Freeman, one or the other.
Oh, wait. Yeah, I think Tony Freeman won.
Yeah, I think it was Tony Freeman.
Because I think that was the year I won the fitness model contest at that same show. So there was no physique yet.
Yeah,
they had the men's like hot body fitness model contest.
Yeah, okay. That's cool. Yeah,
you could win. Yeah, you guys were, because there was no bikini. There was no men's physique yet.
No, not then, no.
But they had these little exhibition things so I won $500.
Yeah.
And what's funny, all the guys wore board shorts, right?
Yeah.
And I was the only guy who wore like classic physique.
The little shorts.
I wore underwear. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was the only guy. And like people were saying, like, dude, you can't wear your underwear up there. I was like, it says hot body fitness model contest. Like, I got to show my legs. I was like, I got to show my legs.
Yeah.
And I was the first. And that's what's funny is like, they hadn't even talked about men's physique yet, but here they were doing, and the board shorts are already like this discussion. And I was the one like wearing black, almost classic style underwear. Yeah. And I won the whole thing. It was like 80 dudes and I won. And Hani Rambod was the judge.
Okay.
Yes. He was with BSN back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you won, you got 1 year of coaching with him and like $500 and a contract with BSN.
That's fucking pretty good.
Yeah. It was cool. They flew me to New York and, I thought I was big time, but.
Did you work with Hani?
Hani, like,
kind of
straight up, since you're so honest on your show, Hani was so cool. We ended up going out and partying that night, and Phil was there too. Like I worked at a club too, so I got him into the club.
Yeah,
free drinks, VIP, all that.
Yeah, and
but Hani never would answer my questions that I wanted answered. Like I wanted to know about gear. I wanted to know about steroids. I didn't need him to send me like what rice to eat and how much chicken. I was a nutritionist, like, he was with BSN. So like, he sent me this cookie cutter diet with all like, take BSN weight gainer 3 times a day, take Atrofex and take Synthesix. And then it was like, I was like, no, dude, I want to know like, what type of test and what type. I was asking him the same thing that guys pound me with. Yeah. And he wouldn't answer any of it. So I basically didn't utilize him.
I wonder if it's because he was like tied up with BSN and he didn't want to make them look bad. You know what I mean? Like it's different because the whole thing was it was a prize where they're all connected.
Yeah.
Maybe felt like he was representing BSN.
We've talked about it many times. I've never asked him like, hey, why didn't you answer me? He probably just didn't.
Yeah.
He probably didn't have time. He was super busy back then too.
If you want the truth, I worked with him for like 2 years and he never liked talking about gear that much. Like we didn't really delve into like how much gear to take. And he would give like little hints here and there. And yeah, he I don't know. I think it's just not his favorite thing. Not that he doesn't know about it. I just don't think he's like, you know what I mean? But
he did save my ass one time though.
Why?
And he did help me with gear. Well, my dumbass we were shot that documentary, The Perfect Physique. I don't know if you even saw that.
No. What's that?
It was a Netflix documentary when Physique first came out with me, Jeremy Buendia, Sadiq, a couple other guys.
Oh, is there a bunch of men's physique guys on the cover of it?
Yeah.
I think I've seen it on Netflix. Okay.
Greg Plitt. Yeah. The late Greg Plitt was kind of the star of it.
Okay.
And what it was is just comparing like men's physique guys versus fitness model guys, like kind of who our lifestyle, how we got into it.
Yeah.
And it was cool. Like I helped, cast it. I helped the sponsorship of that. But anyways, so while on that documentary, I had a show the next week after we filmed that.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody else was dieting except for me.
Yeah.
And they're, Sadiq and Jeremy and all these guys, they're eating pizza and drinking wine and making s'mores. Yeah. I'm the grumpiest dude on the documentary because I'm like, I got a show a week after. Like I was basically peak week.
Yeah.
And so I was taking, oh God, it was the first time I'd ever taken Anadrol.
Okay.
And so because I was keto and low carb,
Yeah.
I had a local bodybuilder guy here, Max. I think you know Max, right?
Max who? Oh, Max. I know Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Max.
So Max always helped me out here and there with different stuff. And he was like, man, I wonder, since you have to be keto, I wonder if you take something that could fill you out. I wonder if it would even have the water retention effect.
Yeah.
And so it was working. I was much fuller. It almost looked like I had carbs.
Yeah.
But it definitely put a lot of water on me.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there on the the set of this film, right? There's like 50 people everywhere, like in this massive mansion. And I pull Hani aside. I was like, dude, it's like, man, I'm holding so much water. I got to show like what I've never held this much water. He's like, man, it looks like you're just extra. Like you look way more bloated than I've ever seen you, And he was like, what are you taking? I said, oh, this, and this, and Anadrol. He's like, dude, drop the Anadrol. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, you're 8 days out from a show.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, I don't know this and that. So I dropped it. I was holding literally 15, 20 pounds of water.
Yeah.
I dropped it and boom, I ended up winning the show.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a thing. That I never did that. That kind of, it's like different circles did different shit. And some of the guys liked doing the Anadrol at the end because it filled them out. I always had your problem is I would get watery as fuck. So I'm like, I never did it. Yeah. So when you started, when you went from fitness model shows to Men's Physique, and when you became a diabetic and you were using insulin and you're like, okay, insulin's going to make me huge. Did you start using anabolics at the same time, or was it soon after that, or where did the anabolics start?
It was like a staggered effect. And that was important to me. I didn't want to just jump in and be unhealthy.
Yeah.
Also, I was worried that some stuff could really hurt me. So nobody had any answers for me. Nobody could direct me. And I had people that were extremely knowledgeable. Ronnie's guru, Herman. Herman did a lot of stuff for Ronnie. I mean, I was in the same gym as these guys and he didn't know. He's like, man, I don't know. And he would try to throw stuff at me like, no. So my first show was natural.
Okay.
And then after that, and I placed top 5 in this new thing, Physique they don't even know how to judge it yet.
Yeah.
But they said, listen, you got a really good look. Like from all these meetings we're having nationwide and all these conference calls are saying like, you're the type of look that we want. I was like, okay, so maybe feel comfortable. Yeah. But the bodybuilder friends told me like, listen, dude, you're not going to go pro if you don't get on something.
Yeah.
And so, some guys I think genetically can do it, not many, but I definitely wasn't one of those guys. So I got on like testosterone and Anavar for my first show that I won. And that was it.
Yeah.
Just testosterone and Anavar.
It didn't affect your doing the gear even just a little bit. Did it affect your insulin use or your diabetes at all or no?
Not those compounds.
Okay.
Now later on it would, yeah, other compounds, but testosterone will improve I don't want to say improve diabetes, but it improves the rate at which you burn blood glucose. So okay. you can lower your blood sugar and have a healthier A1C score. The A1C is the most important score. It's the coating of red blood cells or the coating of sugar around the red blood cell. So diabetics have it.
That's kind of like your long-term, your A1C is your long-term blood sugar score,
90
right?
day. Yeah. 90,
okay.
Which is people look at blood sugar right now.
Yeah.
It's like, no, what is the average of the last 90 days?
Yeah.
That's the A1C score. That's more important.
Okay. So as a diabetic, your main purpose is to just always try and stay within a certain range, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're eating, is there anything you can eat? Is there a diet that you can do where you can still grow as a bodybuilder and still keep it stable and use very little insulin? Or is it, okay, let me rephrase the question. So most bodybuilders, when they're trying to get big or put on muscle, they're going to eat a ton of carbs, right? So if you're a diabetic and you're eating, 50 to 100 grams of carbs per meal, is this going to make your life hell? Like you're going to be injecting a ton of insulin with every meal? Are you doing 10 IUs with every meal? Is that how it works? Or is there a better way to do it?
Yeah. If you try to do that, most likely, like we said earlier, your A1C score is going to be terrible. Yeah. So you're not going to hold as much muscle. You're not screw even thinking about muscle.
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to eat like 100 grams of carbs every single meal, and you don't have the expert, we'll just say like the expert knowledge that I do, starting off, you're literally never going to be a good bodybuilder. You're not even going to be a good, you're not going to be a good, anything. Like you can't think right. That's why I couldn't do this podcast. I can't go on if I literally can't talk and can't think right. Like you ask me a question, I'm like literally can't even answer. So,
but I'm saying like if is the equation is a single IU for every 10 grams of carbs, right? So I'm like, if I'm you, and I'm like, okay, I can't, and I'm obviously simplifying this, so I'm just trying to get a figure, trying to go in a certain direction. So if I'm like, okay, I want to take in 500 grams of carbs a day, break it down for 5 meals, 100 grams of carbs per meal, I'm just going to do 10 IUs of insulin per day. Why does it matter what my A1C score is if I'm already a diabetic anyway?
Because your insulin sensitivity can vary day to day. It can vary throughout the day. You know what I'm saying? So you might sit down and have 100 grams of carbs, but that doesn't mean you're only going to need 10 units of insulin.
Oh, depending on the day.
You could have very poor insulin sensitivity, and you could have to take 30 units of insulin for that same. Okay. So that's what happens. The scale starts to slowly get worse and worse to where, day one, you ate 500 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
You had a little slip up. You went out of your ranges.
Yeah.
But day two, your insulin sensitivity is going to be worse. So now you're going to use, we'll just say, like you said, twice as much insulin.
Yeah.
Day three, 3 or 4 times as much insulin.
Okay.
The next thing you know, you're literally not even absorbing any of those carbs. So that's why a lower carb lifestyle is good at the beginning.
Okay.
And that's where I leave people, is to start off even keto sometimes, and then increase carbs steadily until you start to figure out, when to have carbs.
Yeah.
And also how many you can have. Like, what's your magic number? Like, my magic number that I can have in a day is different than another person.
Yeah, it does. Okay. Now I think it finally makes sense to me what the insulin sensitivity means. Sorry, it took me a while to grasp, but I get it now. So is there a way to do it where, what if somebody did like a carb cycling diet where they were doing like, well, I'm going to do 500 grams on Monday, but I'm going to do less the other days? Could they keep their insulin sensitivity high that way?
Yeah, they could, but it's not given. It's not guaranteed. You can't just say that because you had low carb on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday was a moderate amount of carbs. There's no guarantee that Thursday you're going to be able to load a bunch of carbs.
Yeah.
If you don't have the proper medication, if you've got to stay hydrated. So yes, I love carb cycling, but like you have to really be there for these diabetics when shit hits the fan. Like when things go wrong, you need to tell them what to do, because like for instance, if I was going to carb cycle in this situation you're talking about, and we were going to start loading carbs Thursday, like a high carb day, I probably still wouldn't have a ton of carbs in the morning.
Okay.
Because in the morning, not only am I, but you are insulin resistant in the morning as well.
Okay.
Most people are more insulin sensitive at night.
Really?
And that's why I've always explained to people, almost every dude you talk to, and we're talking like gym bros here. Like, when do you get the best pump during your workout? During the day? Like, well, nighttime workouts. I'm like vascular and veiny. Yeah. Like most guys are have a better pump after like 4 or 5 p.m. workouts.
Yeah.
And they wonder why. And honestly, we could talk to, an endocrinologist about this, or somebody, that's a doctor. But for me, diabetes showed me that, okay, I'm much more insulin sensitive at night. So I have a better glucose response at night. And that's why I'm more vascular, more veiny.
Okay. So this is actually brings me to a good point. So let's talking for just regular people who aren't diabetics. What you're saying is true for everybody, right? It's not just for diabetics.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So most coaches that I've talked to or had on the show, their day goes like this: carbs in the morning, and they go down as you go, right? Because you don't need them at night. You have them around your workout. You might work out after meal 2 or 3, and then meal 4, 5, 6, your carbs tend to drop off, and your fats tend to go up throughout the day. They're very low in the morning, and they tend to climb, and they get the highest maybe your last meal. So what you're saying kind of throws that all out the window. So what you're saying is I should have my carbs like after meal 3, like meal 3, 4, 5, 6 should be like higher and higher.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I would have, before diabetes, I wouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
But in a perfect world. So not everyone, because of their lifestyle, work, family, job, whatever, maybe their mind doesn't like working out at night. Maybe like to get it done because they fight laziness and they tend to quit on their workouts after 2 or 3 p.m. That's me, actually.
That's how I am. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it comes with age too. Like when you get, when we were younger, pounding midnight workouts, I didn't give a shit. Like, okay, I'll work out at midnight. Now,
you're right. Actually, it's true, because I used to train at like 8 o'clock in the afternoon, like in the evening, and I didn't care. And now I'm like, after 2 o'clock, I'm like, okay, it's fucking late. Like, can I get to the gym already? So,
which makes you wonder, like, about Jay Cutler. He's been working out at night for a long time. I know on Expos he works out in the morning, but he's always worked out late at night.
But I think for him it's different. I think if somebody was going to bother you every 5 minutes, you'd want to go when like nobody was around. For him, it's probably a logistical thing.
Or maybe he knows his insulin sensitivity better. And Phil trains at night too.
Yeah, but Jay's a bad example, because I know Jay has like 100 grams of carbs for breakfast. So I don't I don't know, but no, it's interesting. I mean, in a vacuum, avoiding all those other variables, I wonder if that would work, like, it keep you leaner. So that kind of leads me to my next question. And I do want to go back to your history and talk about your competitive history. But one of the things I noticed in your Instagram, because I follow you, is you're fucking lean all the time. Is that, we still have some to cover on insulin too, but this is just a question I had to ask. Are you on your diet all the time, or have you just figured out when you could cheat, when you can't cheat? Or is the insulin helping you stay lean? Or like, because I figured somebody that was diabetic and had to take insulin, and this could be my own like wrongful thinking, but would be heavier, would have a harder time staying lean. And you seem to be in great shape all the time. So is it genetic? Is it because you figured it out? Or is it because of being diabetic?
It's funny. So people have said that I never feel that way. I never feel like I'm in shape.
Well, that's because you're crazy like the rest of us. But in actuality, you're in great shape.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I know how the mind of a lot of guys like us feel. And, but you know what? It is, there's so many variables to answer that question. And, it is something that I have asked myself. I'd say the first thing is genetics. Yeah. Because my mother had abs till she was 50 and hardly worked out a day in her life. Okay. She's just super rail thin. I'm also American Indian. Yeah. So American Indians tend to, I think, be pretty lean. That tree in my family is all very lean. Okay. Like abs. My son, I have 2 twin boys. Yeah. One is like my wife's genetics. He's plump and a normal baby. Yeah. One literally has abs. Like he's 2 and he lifts up his shirt and says abs. Like,
and they're twins?
Yeah.
How are you going to explain that to them when they're older? One's going to be shredded. One's going to be Joey.
One's going to be a linebacker and one's going to be a running back or receiver. Yeah. I don't know. Or like whatever. Well, there's benefits. We'll explore the benefits of both types of bodies, Yeah. So
genetics 1, are you very strict with your food at home? Like when you're eating, like on a daily basis?
Yeah, but I don't realize it. I'm in my own world. I don't realize it until maybe I start hanging out with more people. And now my wife has kind of acclimated to my style eating too. Yeah. Yet she doesn't stay as lean, right? But it's funny. Like you get in your own world, you get in your own patterns, you don't realize how you're different.
Mhm.
But I do eat pretty clean, and also I'm forced to because of type 1. So the people that I help with their diabetes, they don't eat as clean as me and they have more body fat.
Yeah.
But if I were to let go of myself and start to get away from how meticulous I am with my blood sugar, I would probably, be using a lot more insulin, be storing a lot more fat, be holding a lot more water. But also, man, I love to train like 5-6 days a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do fasted cardio every single morning to improve, try to help improve my sensitivity in the morning.
Yeah.
It's just a habit. I walk, every morning is some type of activity.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't eat a lot of cheat meals. I don't, when I was training and trying to get bigger for classic physique, I added in a lot more dense calories. And I saw for the first time, I started to see okay, kind of starting to lose abs a little bit.
Yeah.
But I really have to eat so much. Like just for maintenance, I eat like 4,200 calories.
Wow. That's actually a lot, man. How are you eating 4,200 calories if I'm assuming your carbs are pretty low, right? Because you're trying to keep yourself pretty stable, or your carbs high throughout the day?
Okay. So like they're high for me. I would say.
Okay. What would be a daily average, do you think, for carbs? Like, are you taking in 300 grams, 500 grams?
Well, yeah, 350 to 400.
Okay. That's not low. That's pretty good.
Yeah. It didn't used to, it's been that way for a few years now.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since I wanted to climb up to classic, that's when I all right, I'm going to do everything in my power to eat carbs and stay healthy.
Okay.
So it took me like a year of failure. And that was like 2018, 2019, 2020 is when I really figured out the right medications and the right, like having to do fasted cardio.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors that go into me being able to eat more carbs.
Yeah.
But the minute that I have issues, I take it like tomorrow. If I had issues all day today, tomorrow will be like 50 grams of carbs.
Lower carb day. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just take it all away, start back from square one.
So it's interesting you said that, because, one of my original questions was, can somebody become a pro bodybuilder if they're type 1 diabetic? And I think there is some, so I know it's possible, but I mean more on average. So you're saying it took you a couple years just to figure out how to eat more just to put on muscle. So do you think you could ever get to the point, let's say your genetics allowed it, could you get to the point where you could figure out where your body could eat what you need to eat to be an open pro bodybuilder? Or is that not really in the cards for somebody at type 1?
Man, I hate to say no, because I think there is maybe somebody who gets diagnosed like I did, but they have bigger genetics.
Yeah.
Like they're just naturally a bigger person.
Yeah.
They might have a better shot. But for me, I think I could have been maybe a decent, I don't know, maybe won a small show at Classic. That's probably the biggest I could have ever got. And the reason being is because I can't take growth hormone. So I'm a big fan of growth hormone. I love growth hormone for all the good reasons, right?
Yeah.
But in small doses, like I'm not talking about the mass doses that are.
What's a small dose?
I would say 2 to 3 units a day.
Okay. So why can't
the max I tried was 4?
Why can't you take GH? How does it affect your diabetes?
It makes you insulin resistant.
Yeah.
So
immediately you're like,
I mean, dude, I would try it just at night, even like just a nighttime dose.
Yeah.
Which I don't recommend for a lot of people, because you can start messing with your natural growth hormone production if you only take it at night.
Yeah.
So I prefer morning.
Sure.
Well, if I took it at night, I would wake up and be even more insulin resistant. So my insulin just wouldn't work. I would be like, for a keto meal of just eggs and avocado and spinach in the morning, basically no carbs, I would have to be using as much insulin like as if I was eating a couple cups of oatmeal. Okay. So it would just make me so insulin resistant. I was losing weight. So the whole point of taking growth hormone was there really was no point, right?
Yeah.
If I don't have insulin sensitivity, I can't take a drug. And so I feel like that gives guys an advantage. So to get bigger with my genetics, I probably just had to up the dosage on a lot of things.
Yeah.
I had never done that and just didn't feel comfortable doing that. So, you know, it would have been nice, but that's why I feel like type 1s have such a problem growing, is because we can get to an elite level.
Yeah.
But to compete with the other elites, there's certain compounds and things that they just don't have to deal with, which makes it so much harder on us, you know.
What other anabolics affect type 1? Like what anabolics would affect your insulin sensitivity? And when you're describing these things, do they affect everybody's insulin sensitivity, or is it just because you're type 1? Like I know GH does, but like
this is what I tell a lot of my clients, and most of my clients are not type 1. Let's say like 10-15%.
Yeah.
So all the dudes who I work with, yes, I'll say they do affect your blood sugar, right? But it's just not a slap in the face, because you have a working pancreas. So your pancreas is going to produce insulin. You don't have a monitor on you that's reading to your Apple Watch telling you your blood sugar is raising. And that, you know, some do nowadays, but not to get off topic. But yes, like Anadrol spikes the blood sugar, right? So back when I was on that, I was basically almost no carbs, and it would spike my blood sugar a little bit. Things like the real harsh stuff like halotestin, you know, it wasn't not good for you in the first place, really, but it would spike my blood sugar. Like it's like the more toxic drugs, but all your basic stuff, all your like Test and Deca and MPP or EQ and Primobolan, even Winstrol. So like that stuff doesn't affect your blood sugar. Yeah. But that's what's crazy. The more toxic stuff does. And now these peptides too. Like I'm super interested in all these new peptides coming out, what works and what doesn't, what has, you know, the least amount of side effects, what's good for a longevity of the lifestyle of a fitness enthusiast. And a lot of them still spike my blood sugar. So
so what do you think about guys doing insulin that don't need it? Like how is that, like when you see that, is that terrifying to you? Is it normal? Or guys okay? Are guys taking way too much? Like one of the things that I never liked about insulin was when I did it, I always had to do more after, you know, when I would start doing, I would get these crazy pumps. And then after like 2-3 weeks, I'd be like, I'm not really feeling it anymore. I just feel like I'm getting fatter and fatter. So what is your take on people using insulin that don't need it?
I think there is some research. First of all, it is, you know, the most anabolic substance known to man, right? And it has its benefits. But if you don't have someone overseeing what you're doing that's an expert, you shouldn't ever touch it, because it literally could put you in the hospital. There's a lot of terrible side effects. But that being said, like there is research that shows it can be good for a bodybuilder who is loading a lot of carbs. Yeah. You know, to keep you from becoming pre-diabetic or to keep your insulin levels healthy, but it's a small amount, right? It's a small amount. Like a guy, I think a lot of big guys that are trying to do like, you know, 700 to 1,000 a day. Yeah. That's when insulin could be good for you to help you avoid diabetic symptoms.
Really? Okay. What do you think about like a long acting? I've always been curious about long acting insulin drugs like Lantus and things like that don't, because I'm like, common sense just makes sense to me, where I'm like, okay, if I do one shot in the morning, it's going to take care of me all day long. Why is that why is that not the popular thing to do?
Because, you know, this is where it gets a little scientific, but the rate at which the glucose will be absorbed into the muscle cell. Yeah. All right. So when you train and you deplete glycogen, all right, you want to replenish glycogen as fast as possible. All right. And that's where insulin, your fast acting, comes into place. Okay. Now, like you said, basal or long acting, it's not going to have that same effect where you absorb glucose super fast.
Okay.
All right. Now, this is where we get into and a lot of people do that. They take metformin or they take a long acting, and I just haven't seen anybody use it personally. They could be out there.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anyone use long acting that's actually had a benefit from it.
So but I meant it more in terms of, like, I know if you're trying to get massive, what you're saying makes sense. Get it in, get as much carbs as you can, as fast as you can, right around training. But I'm talking in terms of giving your pancreas a break. Would it give my pancreas a break if I did? And we're not prescribing anything to anybody. I'm just asking a question. If you did a little bit of long-acting insulin in the morning, would it help your pancreas stay healthy if you're eating 500-600 grams of carbs in a day? Or is it not?
I think yes, but also get ready for some lows. You're going to, in between meals, you're probably going to have some low blood sugar. You're going to be sweating, you're going to feel lethargic. You're going to feel a little bit of what I do every day, but I don't think it's the value that you're looking for is going to be worth it compared to just simply taking fast acting before and after a workout.
Okay.
For a max of like 8 weeks, that's what you had said is like, why do I think it's worth it? I think bodybuilders just, they tend to use way too much.
Yeah.
And for extended periods of time. And everyone with the most amount of success I've seen is like 8 weeks. Then they don't touch it until the next year for 8 weeks. Maybe a couple times out of the year, they'll do 8-week cycles. But there, no names being out there, but the pros that I know that have diabetic issues from taking insulin too long, they just simply took it for like, 3-4 months. Yeah. And then they turn around and they do it at the end of the year for another 3 or 4 months. And I'm like, no, listen, it's a slippery slope, but 8 weeks is kind of the max cycle that I ever saw people get on, get off, actually get benefit from it. Yeah. And properly cycle it.
Okay. So going back to your competitive history, you were 30. What happened? How does it all play out? Where did you do your first show? You did the Europa. That was a hot body contest. Sorry, I should rename it a fitness contest. But what did you do your first NPC show? I want to show people what you look like
Oklahoma Grand Prix.
This is you when you started?
Yeah, that was doing like Navy SEAL fitness challenges and sprint triathlons.
What is this? What is it? What is this thing right here? I was like, what the fuck? Sorry.
People said that too. That's the first thing. Like, people were like, what is that? I'm like, man, I think that's just where my quad was supposed to grow and it hadn't grown yet.
Just started and stopped. So this is you. I'm sorry. How old were you here?
I was probably like 20. Let's see. That was 2000. Man, did I put there? I don't know. I was probably like 26, 27.
Okay. So obviously very athletic. And then this is how long into your career? Your men's physique career?
38 there.
You're 38.
I was getting ready for classic. Yeah, I was 38. So it's about 10, 11 years later.
How old are you right now?
I'm 39. I'm going to be 40 this year.
Oh, so this is only a year old. Okay.
Yeah.
Year two.
That's last year. Uh-huh.
Okay. So tell me what happened. So you did your first NPC show where?
So Men's Physique hadn't even been out that long. There was only like 12 shows, and 12 amateur, maybe 20 amateur shows total. And Oklahoma Grand Prix had the last one, and it was in October around like Halloween. So I was diagnosed. Yeah, that's some of my first shows too.
This is what I was going to say. This is local. It says local, nationals.
First show I won.
This is the first show you won?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you remember how old you were here? 31, 30?
I think I was 30.
You developed fast. I mean, this is a great physique. So most people don't start at 30, but so this is 30, and then you won nationals here?
31. I just turned 31, yeah.
And then
same year.
And then this is what place did you take at the Olympia here?
That was third place, 2015. But look what's funny. Look at those pictures. You can tell how like the gear changed. Look at the local level. Local level
Yeah.
That's just test and anavar.
Yeah.
Very little water retention. And that's a keto diet.
Yeah.
Then the middle is actually, I won my pro card, but you can see the up in the testosterone. You can see the added, water retention, which I didn't know how to take off properly.
Yeah.
And then you can see like, okay, actually cycling, doing shit right at Olympia.
Yeah. I mean, you could also just say it looks like another 10 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It could be just because you're 10 pounds heavier. Like there's actually 10 pounds more muscle tissue than, because your structure is not very different from here to here. I mean, structurally you you definitely put a cap on your shoulders and your chest is much thicker, but
that's what the judges tell you. They tell you what to do, work on. And I was born with a chest. I was literally came out with a chest, so I just had to build upon that.
Okay, so we'll go back to that. So you did your first show around 30. How long did it take you to turn pro? You were 31, you said, when you won the nationals?
I got my pro card in 9 months.
Did you think this is it? This is my career. I'm going to just be a fucking pro physique guy and I'm going to earn money and that's what I'm doing?
No, heck no. Oh man, I feel bad for people who think that, they get a reality check. But no, I honestly, because I had competed, I got the diagnosis that you're type 1 diabetic. Then I did my first show 8 weeks later.
Yeah.
Like I gained all my weight. I had lost all my weight. I was 185 naturally, and I got down to 145. And then they put me on the insulin, and I had gained probably all my weight back plus another 5 pounds.
Yeah.
And then that's what's crazy. So I in 30 days, I gained all my weight back. I looked incredible. Like my skin, imagine losing a ton of weight. Yeah. And then you gain it all back and your skin is just razor thin. And there's not a feeling like it. No anabolic that could ever make me look that good because just being healthy. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, so I jumped in the show super quick, and it was just funny how I really didn't have to diet because I was also like, you know what I'm saying? Like going from sick with diabetes into a show, what I'm saying? It was just,
you're already lean. You just filled out. Yeah. Yeah.
I had no body fat just from not absorbing any food for the whole year. Yeah. But it took me 9 months to get my pro card. It was like a sprint. And I wasn't thinking like, this is going to be my career. It was, I wanted to compete in physique to rebuild my personal training career. Okay. So I had already been a trainer for about 8 years, and I had lost everything when I was sick. I mean, I was so sick. I lost all my money. I had to move in with my dad. I had lost every client except for a few. I couldn't even hand them their weights. I was so weak. I mean,
this is when you first got diabetes?
Yeah. The whole time when I was training people when I was sick, I had no energy to even train them. So I'd lost all my clients.
When you were sick, did you know what it was? Or was there a period of time where you were sick and you didn't know?
I didn't know what it was for like 6-7 months.
Holy shit. So
I had no insurance either. So I went to, my first step was going to a clinic to get checked for an STD. I thought I had like AIDS.
Oh, fuck.
That's what, there's no education on diabetes. So the only reason I knew it was diabetes finally was because one of my clients said, listen, my daughter has the exact same symptoms as you. Like I was peeing every 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my face was so dehydrated. My lips were cracked. The sides of my mouth were cracked.
Yeah.
Eyes sunken in. I mean, plus I was 145 pounds. I'm 215, 220 right now. Yeah. So I was 145 pounds. So, it was just trying to figure out, or she had said that. She had said, hey, you have the same symptoms as my daughter. So I went and got checked, and they were like, yeah, your blood sugar is like way over 500. So, handed me a pill. Didn't even hand me insulin yet. They handed me a pill, said, oh, you're type 2. I was like, okay. But then thank God, just friends had called the right doctor. I had a doctor call me and say, hey, listen, you were misdiagnosed. Yeah. Your friend told me to call you. You need to come in and get insulin. I'll help you out. And the insulin immediately helped, put weight on it.
Yeah. Wow. So you dealt with it for that long. So you had a successful, because I was going to talk to you about business because, from your Instagram, it looks like you're very successful. You have a nice home and, nice things. So you had a successful training business. Has that primarily been your job all along?
17 years. This will be the 18th year this summer.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I always just loved working out, making a job, that whole thing. You know, college didn't go well for me.
What'd you do in college?
I was going for business, just a business degree, and went to local junior college here in Dallas. Then I transferred, went down to Austin Community College, transferred into UT, finally made the grades, and I'm paying for all my college here.
Yeah.
And my first semester at UT, I failed every class. I paid for it. So I was like, I failed every class because I was working at a bar, working at Costco, and I just knew like college wasn't for me. But I kind of, personal training was starting to become like a more common thing. You didn't, I mean, we're like 20 years ago, you kind of had to have a degree. Like everyone wanted you to have a degree. So these certifications came out, and I was like, okay, so I got NASM certified, and you know, got a job. But so I've been training.
So your personal training actually in the gym. It wasn't like an online coaching thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So
in the gym, the online coaching thing was nobody did that. There was like a couple of guys who had some awesome DVDs.
Yeah.
You know, Carlos Juan Santana. I think he had bands and stuff.
Yeah.
That dude was like the legend. He was like making all this extra income. But
so when you wanted to get your pro card, was there something, was there part of a passion about it? Like you wanted, like, I want to win this thing, or was it primarily a marketing, like, you know, this is going to be good for my career, it's going to be good for my training business? Like, is that why you wanted to become a pro?
I mean, it really wasn't just one thing. It was a complete balance. Like this is exact thing, you know, that I tell all the new guys coming up, they want to get their pro card. First thing I ask is why. Yeah. But for one, you really need multiple reasons. And for me, that's why I think it happened quick. And I got, you know, better placings, and I got cool sponsorships, and it really just was a fast track to like really just having fun and really making money, is because I did it for a lot of reasons. I did it for my career. I did it for the marketing. I did it because I truly loved helping people, and I inspired a lot of diabetics. So, you know, it wasn't just about like me going pro, because I think when you first competed, there wasn't a pro division. Yeah. So they came out with they announced the pro division, and I was like, oh, okay, great. Well, now I'll just keep going. I'll keep going and try to get my pro card. So, but really it was an escape, you know, I mean, it was seriously an escape from my old life of just partying balls. You know, working hard, but playing way too damn hard. It was an escape from, I mean, some of my best friends that they're still my best friends, but they were wild and crazy, and I was the worst of all of them. So I needed to get a more solitude, structured lifestyle as a type 1. So it just, to me, it was an outlet, like to start a whole new chapter in life. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't have been more happy to do it, you know? So there was no like, oh, I'm going to get chicks, or I'm going to get sponsors. You know, I didn't think any of that was going to come, you know, and what's funny, it kind of did, but.
Yeah, but it sounds like almost, so you're saying, so, you know, I hear stories other, like, you know, me and, you know, James, or even me and Luke used to talk about how bodybuilding kind of saved them because they were troublemakers when they were younger. So you're kind of saying the same thing, is like, you're a party guy, but also now that you had diabetes, it's kind of like solved a couple problems for you. Yeah, it did. I've never really kind of spoke about that. I mean, I have here and there, but I got in a lot of trouble. I was a troublemaker. I went to jail. How many times you go to jail? I went to jail more than I can count, but I stopped counting at like 30, like over 30 by the time I was 21. Was it all drunk tank shit, or were you like robbing and shit like that? I never got caught for the stupid ass theft stuff, but I hung around with people who stole stuff, and we would break into cars and do really dumb stuff like it. You know, I'm extremely ashamed of it, but we all do dumb shit when we're younger. There's no need to. I'm not asking you to be ashamed. It's interesting to hear where people come from sometimes, and what leads them to our path. You know what I mean? So it definitely was running from my demons. You know, running from. I already knew that I had
I don't want to sound cocky, but I believe in people understanding that we all have greatness in us. It's just where are you going to apply that greatness? Where is your best outlet to live your best life and achieve your best self, right? And mine was always working out. It was just the social life and the party and the drinking and the girls and all that stuff was always distracting me from being my best. Where I could have been exploring, like expanding my training career on the weekends, I was always shit-faced. Like, just, having a blast, but not necessarily the best for my career.
I did a lot of that in my 20s too. There was a lot of work real fucking hard because I wanted to be a pro bodybuilder, and I kept excelling, but there was a lot of play hard. Like the weekends would roll around and I'd be like, fuck it, I'm going off. So, but in my question,
like you earned it, right?
Yeah. My question though is, see, for me, I'm good with it. Like, I'm like, my wife will sometimes say to me, like, I don't want to talk about your past. Your past was shitty. And I'm like, yeah, but my past led me to who I am now. Like, I'm able to be the guy I am for you now because of where I was. So, but I have no regrets. I have no, like, some guys are like, they want to be that 20-year-old for their whole life. Do you ever feel like you miss those days, or is that guy ever come back out of you, or is he gone? Like he's just put to sleep?
Man, I guess it'll never be completely gone, but when that part of me needs to be gone, or, when I need to get my shit together, I have my shit together. But sometimes it'll come up and sneak up on you because, there's a reason why, drinking and partying is a multi-billion-dollar business. Because it's fun. It's a release that lets you release. It's just some people don't know how to release responsibly. Yeah. So now I'll have a glass of fine tequila or whiskey, or, I've got a nice little bar that, I've put together in my house. Right. Yeah. But I don't, I can control that. Whereas before it was like, all right, call everybody over and card night or game night or whatever, drinking turns into shots, turns into, okay, now we're going to a strip club. Now we're going to a club, so it's just about doing it in moderation.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to touch on, you put a post up yesterday about prices for, actually, before we go there, I want to go back to your history because we didn't touch on you being a pro. I want to talk about men's physique and bodybuilding and why there's always like this rift. Do you guys feel, when you were competing as a pro, did you feel like bodybuilders didn't give you guys enough credit or enough, there wasn't enough respect given to what you guys did?
I think from certain people, if I could just be honest, there's always gonna be assholes in this world. Mm-hmm. Some bodybuilders were assholes, and some bodybuilders were, I think treated us like just respectful humans. They treated us normal. Some guys, but I get where they're coming from, because I was a person who always paid my respects to all the guys I looked up to. Yeah. I looked at bodybuilders as being, veterans and being experienced and knowledgeable and something new that I was starting. So I looked at them as a wealth of knowledge, and I respected everything good about them so that I could absorb it. It was, so I had, obviously I don't know why any physique dude would have. So when people were rude, like, a couple guys would joke here and there about at destination here in town. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And, I won't say names, but these guys are the top bodybuilders. Right. But they would make jokes like, Poston, how many followers you got? And I'd say like, how? And then they would just kind of like, how in the hell does he got that many followers? Like this and that. I'm like, I go back to my workout now, but I would be thinking like, that's why you don't have followers, dudes, because you're an asshole. I'm like, social media doesn't like assholes. Yeah. So, I get it in so many ways, like, but I also can say I was the first physique guy that, oh man, I would feel like the biggest dick. Say it. His name. No, the rider, Huff. Oh man, I'm so bad with names. Now I gotta look.
Peter McGuff.
Peter McGuff.
Yeah, he just passed away recently. Yeah.
Yeah. So Peter, I've known him and his wife since they did the interview, but like he went out of his way, and I was the first physique guy for him to do an interview and write an article about because of the diabetes. So I took that like that was respectful, right? And he even told me, he's like, I don't know a thing about physique. He's like, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know that it's necessarily the best division. He's like, I don't understand it. He's like, but I do respect what you're doing and what you've done to build your body, and I'd like to interview about it. And I was extremely honored. So like guys like him and Kevin Levrone, before his comeback, Kevin Levrone had reached out to me just backstage. It's like, hey man, you got to go. He started asking me about everything I'm doing. Yeah. And then, you know, he had found out I'm type 1 diabetic as well. And he had more questions about it. And he actually helped, you know, came out of his way to help me for a show, you know, a peak week for a show. And, you know, same thing with Jay Cutler, Dex. Like when you show respect to these guys who deserve it and earn it, they'll show respect back, you know, and because in a way I feel like physique is the little brother of bodybuilding, and that's exactly what it is. So for guys to get you know, some of the physique guys to get an ego and start thinking that you know, that they're even with bodybuilding or even discussing that, I feel like is kind of disrespectful. And you only saw physique guys do that when they started making money, because they did. Some guys started making 6-figure supplement contracts, and you know, some guys are making $200,000 and $300,000 a year. But they let that get to their head because they're making more than this bodybuilder with endorsements because they're more relatable. It's trending right now. They started to get a big head. Bodybuilders could feed off that. So in a way, like we're just people just being dumbasses.
So I'll avoid the personal riffs because those aren't my questions. I have a few questions about physique as an open bodybuilder. I have a few questions about physique. Does it bother you? And they're kind of like yes or no question. I don't know if they're yes or no. You answer how you want to answer, but does it bother you that there's not more posing in men's physique? Because I think that would be different. Like one of the things I see when I watch men's physique, I'm like, there's not enough posing. Does that bother you or no? Did it ever bother you?
Yeah, no, it did bother me. Okay. Because that's why I was idolized as bodybuilding, flexing. Yeah. You know, creating angles, creating the artwork that you want to present on stage. So that's why I probably never won, because there was the element of presentation and physique that I didn't care for. Yeah. And then I would get mixed. It was hard because I would get mixed feedback from the judges, and they would say, Poston, we like what you do. You pose forward, back, and get off the stage. Yeah. And that same time, that same year, other guys were starting to do more flamboyant routines and stuff that the crowd liked, which I think amped up the judges too. Yeah. I'm doing as I'm told. So it was miscommunication from the judges. And people don't understand. They think like the IFBB did make this new division, but that division was made by the early, the early physique competitors. They made it. Like they kind of did what they want. Yeah. You know, they went on there. They're the ones that kept getting bigger. You know, the judges would look at him and say, oh, we like that. And so I feel like this is the way a lot of new sports are made. It's like the early people within that sport are kind of the people who groom and mold that sport. Yeah. And so I kind of, that's what I put a lot on my shoulders as to like, you know, being good steward to the division, being a good steward to IFBB, being responsible, being a good influence. And I think that's why they like me. But as far as the posing, like, yeah, it was frustrating because if you really like bodybuilding, your heart's into bodybuilding, but you're wearing these shorts, it kind of messes with your head a little bit.
Did you do physique instead of bodybuilding because of the diabetes? Like you thought, okay, I'm never going to get that big, so I should do this. It's like, did you ever want to do bodybuilding? Like, did you ever think I'm going to do, like when you did your amateur shows, did you ever think I'm going to do a medium, like a middleweight class and do bodybuilding or a light heavy or something like that and see how it goes? Or did you just think that's not going to be for me?
Personally, no. I never thought that I could get big enough. Okay. I mean, because I guess being so new with bodybuilding and growth and development, I didn't foresee the fact that I was going to be 230 pounds eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me, 2011 when I started. So it took me about 8 years to put on about, 25, 30 pounds of quality muscle.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until 2019. So I was like, okay, maybe I could get into classic physique. And I definitely had enough muscle. Now, enough muscle to be top 5 or even top 10 in Olympia in classic physique? No, not that I don't think, but to win a small show in classic physique, I think, I could have gotten there. But
so maybe you can answer this for me, because this is my other physique question. Some of these guys, including yourself, you said you weren't necessarily big enough, but some of the guys now are big. Like, they look big. Some of them look bigger than the classic guys. Why not? Why do they want to compete in physique instead of classic? Like, does every okay, this may be a bad thing, but every open bodybuilder thinks that every men's physique guy is only there because they're not big enough to compete in classic. Is that true, or do some guys just like wearing the shorts? They like that class. They like being there. They want to stay there.
There's definitely some guys that like physique, and the reason why is I think it's situate, or it's a demographic. Certain cities and certain states, bodybuilding is not as prevalent. Here in Texas, we have a good mix.
Yeah.
There's a lot of physique guys. There's a lot of bodybuilders.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bikini competitors. There's a lot of female bodybuilders here.
Yeah.
I've went through Canada. I think Canada's the same way. There's a good mix.
Yeah.
But you go to places like Cali and Florida,
I
don't feel like there is as much. We'll just say Cali, for instance. Cali they love physique and bikini.
Okay.
And that it's a trending thing. Like, that's what they like there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I some of these guys that are too big, they do physique because they probably just that's their best shot at success. That's their best shot. And for a while, it was your best shot at really making some good money with social media and endorsements.
Yeah.
You were just more relatable. We're in a situation like that right now, where you even have people who do calisthenics that are just blowing up. I mean, they don't lift hardly any weight. They only lift body weight.
Yeah.
And they're becoming more relatable right now. And, that was big for me in building my social media. Was I'm just going to give away gold every single day. Like, this isn't about me. I want to educate people on how to be elite. And so I would just constantly pump out my diet information and free information every single day. And instead of just being like, hey, look at me, I'm shredded and ripped and whatever.
So that's one of the, I want to get to your social media, because I think it's really interesting, but I want to ask, before we move on from the competitive days, I know you say you're not fully retired, but I mean, we're kind of in the same boat. I haven't competed since 2017. And when people ask me if I'm retired, I say no, but it's like, it's been 4 years. Is it hard for you to walk away? Is it hard for you to say, yes, I'm done, like, I'm not going to compete anymore? In your mind, do you feel like you're kind of done, or do you feel like there's still another one in there? Okay, guys, we're back. We had a little bit of an error. I kind of had a tech issue, and me and Jason both I called him after and I said I had a tech problem, and we lost the second part to this interview. So we both went and worked out. It's, as you can see where he is now, it's dark out now, but we're back. So we're going to try and continue the interview and get some more information. So
anyway. You hung up the Zoom call, and then you called me 10 minutes later. I was like, oh man, you must really like me.
Yeah, I was like, and I remember I called you too. I'm like, oh, I got bad news. I was like, anyway, so
we're both like, yeah, we got a lot of stuff to do, and you're like, oh hey, guess what? It's all good.
So anyway, so where were we? So when we got cut off, I had asked you how retirement felt, and if you were sure you're retired, and what is it that gives you the itch to come back, if you're going to come back?
Yeah. So we've had about 6-7 hours pass, and now my answer's changed. Saw a couple YouTube videos, went and hit a crazy killer back session.
Yeah.
And I'm still, I love it. I really, in a perfect world, I wish I could do it all, but this wouldn't be a good year for me to try to come back and compete. Like I was saying, I will compete in something because I think it's good for me. And I recommend everyone out there, if you're a competitive person, like maybe you can't be a professional athlete, maybe you can't be a pro bodybuilder, or maybe you can't even compete in bodybuilding. But if you like to compete, we're trained to compete in something. Yeah. Like, I don't care. I love, like, I'll tell my boys that, and I tell, my clients that, it's good to train for something, train for a purpose, like so I'll train, I think, for some more endurance type events, not any marathons, but I like hybrid training. So I really do hope that maybe possibly 2022,
you really think
my muscle?
You really think you're 39 now, you said, so you think 41 you'll still be? See, for me, I always feel like the longer you're out of it, the less likelihood that you're going to come back to it.
Yeah. No, we saw that with another sport this last weekend. Conor McGregor, everyone's saying he got his ass kicked. Yeah. He got knocked the F out by a Louisiana boy, man. My wife's from Louisiana, so I was pulling for that dude. But
I bet against him, so it's all good.
Oh, wait. I saw the bet.
Yeah, me and Flex.
Did you bet Flex? I happened to see that somewhere.
Me and Flex Lewis had a bet because I've been asking him to come on the show for like a year, and he keeps saying no for whatever reason. And so finally, I had to bet him to win, and it was fucking awesome. The second he got knocked out, Flex messaged me. He's like, "All right, when are we doing it?" So
yeah.
Anyway,
stagnant. Yeah, Conor was stagnant. So you have a point there. I think that's very accurate. However, if I come back, it's not like my mindset's different. A lot of I don't compete like, oh, I'm going to win Olympia. Yeah. I'm going to do it. I'm doing it for myself. I'm going to do it for my family. I like to compete for many other reasons other than just to solely beat everyone.
Yeah.
I would do it. I love dieting, man. I'm one of those weirdos who I can do a calorie deficit. Sometimes I have to do keto and low carb to keep my blood sugar in check. And I just love competing, man. I love, and I've never got to put together a bodybuilding routine on a pro stage. So that would be great to be able to get up to like 215 on stage. I'm 215, 218 right now. That would be great. So, but 2021 is not the year, man. This isn't a good year for me.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on, we talked about social media briefly. You mentioned it, and I want to show people kind of what your social media is, because I want to get into because I have a lot of people watching that are younger. I get messages from a lot of people that want to be sponsored, and social media is a big deal now, and you have 1 million followers. There's not many people in the bodybuilding industry that have 1 million or more followers. So how did you grow it? What do you think is valuable? What are people doing wrong, and why? Because people say, well, it's because he looks good, but there's a lot of people that look good that just can't seem to grow their followings. So I think looking good is a base, but what is it that you're doing that's getting so many people to watch you and follow you that other people aren't doing?
If I had that, I can only guess, but really, I'm super hard on myself. Like, I feel like I should have more followers. I have worked so hard, and it became a full-time job, even when I didn't expect it to become a full-time job. Like, I was just posting content about my nutrition knowledge or my training knowledge. I mean, being a trainer for so many years, you think about that stuff all the time. So it's easy to put out there in the universe. Yeah. So I would constantly put out information. And I mean, this is my tip is, just what I've done, but I put out information that I felt like my demographic needed. I mean, I knew I had a lot of guy followers, so I put stuff out there that guys had just asked me for years.
Yeah.
And then of course I answer my DMs. I'm engaged. I ask and I read and I answer comments and I read comments. I spend time at night when other people are watching TV or social, whatever. I spend a lot of extra time engaging with people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't just do Instagram. I also do Facebook and Facebook groups. The Facebook groups are key to building your group, your atmosphere.
Yeah.
You need to be able to build people, whether you're a freaking TikToker that is dancing, or you're a bodybuilder who wants to get endorsements, you're going to have to sell something, and it's either yourself or you sell something for an endorsement. And, I feel like a lot of guys that can't build their following, one, haven't read a lot of literature on business and sales, because you might not be selling a car, but you are selling yourself to all these big companies. And some of them are, like we were just saying before this call, I got a 17-page contract from a $1 billion company. And this will be my third renewal with them signing. This will be at the end, it'll be 3 years. Yeah. So going into that, I had to understand how, what they were looking for. If it wasn't selling the energy drinks, it was just being a good spokesperson for this company and being professional. And so they looked at my social media. That's your resume nowadays. They look at like who you are. And when you're younger, you want to make a little bit extra money. Plain and simple, like, you need to understand how you're valuable to the company, because people think that because you look a certain way or because you have a number of followers that you're guaranteed some type of money or endorsement. And really it just comes out like what type of value you're presenting to these companies. And so you have to put the companies before yourself. Okay. And it wasn't like that, right? It wasn't like that with the 90s and 2000 bodybuilders. They were spokespeople. They literally shot ads, worked their ass off, right? And it was more competition based, right? Whereas now it's different. Like you said, now you're selling yourself. Whereas before, I didn't have to sell myself when I started. When I started, I was just like, hey, okay, he's done this many shows. He looks like he can be this good. Let's pay him this amount of money. Now, like you said, they're going to check your resume, which is your social media. One of the things you said was you have Facebook groups, which I didn't know. How valuable is having a Facebook group? And what is your group? Is it just the Jason Poston group, or do you have like a specific thing that you do on the group? And are those people translated over to Instagram? Like, do they go back and forth? I pull them from my largest source, which is Instagram, to Facebook. Okay. I have a Facebook fan page too. I started that. I remember feeling so weird. I'm like, fan page? Like, what the heck? I know. Like, I don't have fans, but they called it a fan page. I think now it's a business page. But I definitely didn't think I was worthy of any fans at all. Yeah. And, then you come to find out when you start winning IFBB shows, you definitely get fans. It's an awesome perk to have. And you're blessed to have that. So, but I put people in the Facebook groups because those tend to be, and I don't put them there. I shouldn't say that. They join the Facebook group because those tend to be your most loyal people. Those tend to be the people who are most likely to engage, comment, reply, share, save your stuff, do your workouts, buy your plans, buy your supplements. Those are the people who really respect you the most. So put them in a group of your most loyal people and pay attention to them the most, instead of like, people put so much free stuff. I've done it. Like, I know I'm not criticizing other influencers, but people put way too much free stuff out there, and they don't create another spoke away from themselves. We're like, okay, here's my people who really deserve the best content. Yeah. Let me take care of them. And that's what Facebook groups have exploded, and they're continuing to grow. So if you haven't done it yet, that's actually a really good point. I haven't done that. And I think, what's really good about that is I feel like it's a much better way to engage and be in touch with your, because people message me all the time, like, and I'm like you, I try and respond to all my DMs. I try and respond to everybody who comments and everything, but sometimes it's hard. But when it's in a group, I feel like it's in one spot, and instead of replying to like 200 DMs separately, you can reply to everybody all at once. So it's a really good point. Plus, I feel like you're right. If they're the more loyal people to your following deserve a little bit more of your time. Yeah. So, I mean, we do giveaways and stuff like, I've seen you do some giveaways recently with the supplements or clothing merch and stuff. Like, that's some dope stuff. Like, no offense, but not everyone deserves that. There's people on there who literally will not support you in anything. So I don't know. I'm big on loyalty. I'm big on rewarding the people because I know what it's like to not be able to afford a lot of stuff. And, I was so grateful when, like, I mean, never won anything. We didn't grow up on social media, but if like when I won that fitness model contest, man, it was $500.
Yeah.
And I won BSN products for a year, but it could have been the lottery to me. It could have been the lottery.
Did you grow up well off or did you grow up poor?
We grew up poor.
Did you?
Me, my brother, sister. Yeah, we're all 5 years apart. My mom didn't work. And my dad would work a job. Sometimes he worked 2 jobs.
Yeah.
So yeah, we grew up in like a wealthy city, and then we had our little, not poor, but just middle income to lower income area.
Yeah.
So I went to school with all wealthy kids, but then I had my little area that was low income. I mean, our house was built in 1912. We didn't have I can't even remember what we call central heat and air. We don't talk about that now. Like everyone has central heat and air. I guess Canada might be different because you guys don't necessarily need AC in certain parts. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, we do. It still
Okay.
It still gets hot. Well, maybe certain parts up north, but anyway,
I'm in Texas, 100 and something degrees, and we had air conditioning units in the wall, and you know, I mean, I wore girl shoes. My dad didn't buy me any cool shoes. If it was on sale, I remember my first track shoe was a purple girl shoe.
How many siblings do you said you have 2 siblings?
Yeah, I have a brother, 10 years younger. He owns a supplement store in Florida.
Okay.
And then my sister's 5 years younger.
Okay, so you're the oldest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think that has something to see? The reason I ask is because we grew up, it's funny, we almost have the same upbringing. We grew up like family rich, but materialistically poor. Like we didn't have a lot of money, we didn't have a lot of stuff, but my mom didn't work. My dad was a welder, kind of kept us all together, kept us like, you know, kept the clothes on our back, but I didn't have anything special. And I wonder sometimes when you come from that type of upbringing, if that's what drives you to be so successful, like the way you are now, if that's kind of where it comes from.
I think so. Because when I compare it to my friends who kind of were fed with a silver spoon, it took them a lot longer to mature. Yeah. Whereas when I graduated high school, I was like, boom, I'm out the house. I was already used to working. Yeah. I was working since I was 14. Yeah. And then during the summers, I worked 2 jobs. So I was already used to hustling, making a lot of money, flipping stuff. In a way, I was a little bit of a criminal too. I mean, I stole a lot of stuff and I would resell it. So, I mean, I would have a job, but I would get jobs based on could I steal stuff and sell it. Yeah. And looking at that back, I mean, I definitely had my morals, which I knew I was doing wrong, but it was also a hustle. I was working at Journeys, stealing all the polo boots and selling them at a school and making $500-600 in a day at school. So like that thought process and that hustle, you know, even though it wasn't ideal at the time, it kind of taught me how to do that in a legal way later. And so I think a lot of guys that grow up with that perspective of not being given much, only given what they truly need, they tend to appreciate things a lot more, you know, like cars and, you know, paying your bills and just extra money, you know, understanding that, you know, like for instance, you know, since no one really taught me how to make money, I went out of my way to start reading and buying books. I mean, my mom did teach me that. She was a big reader. Mm-hmm. So they couldn't give me money, but they could say, hey, for Christmas, here is the Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding and a sales book. Yeah, I got that one year. And that was one of the best gifts I could ever get. Yeah. Because I started my personal training career like 2 years later, and I came out the door, like booked my schedule at Lifetime Fitness, like in 2 months.
Did your dad work? What did your dad do?
My dad, he worked for Xerox. So he was basically a copy repairman. So when copiers were big, I mean, Xerox was a big company. So he drove around in his little van with a cage in the back and all his copier parts. And that's what he did. He had a company car, and dad was a big athlete. I mean, he was a super competitive guy. But, you know, my dad had his demons too. You know, I'm pretty vocal on my social media about it because it's important to me to be a good dad. My dad was, you know, angry, stressed out, I think he had more kids than he ever thought he was going to have, and didn't expect the money really built up on him, but he turned to drugs, and, you know, he's still hooked on drugs. We just did an intervention on my birthday. And, but you know, I don't complain about my past and use that as an excuse to be a certain way. Sure. I've always been the type of person who, you know, I learned from that. And that's my perspective is, you know, I've seen what it's like. I've seen a lot of good fathers, and I've seen bad fathers. And that's why I'm like, treat my sons like gold. I'm like, I want them to have more than I had, and give them, you know, more guidance. Right. Cause I feel like if I would have had the right guidance, who knows, you know, what I could have achieved. So.
Yeah. Do you think, even though you said he had some demons, do you think watching him work hard and drive around in that little van or whatever, I feel like, because me and a friend of mine were having this conversation about whether the work ethic is something you're born with, or is something you view and absorb from watching others. So is that something you think you saw? Because for me, it was my dad. My dad was like a fucking soldier. He was a welder. He would go to work every day, come home every day, never missed a day, never complained. And that's where I think I get it from. So even though your dad had his demons, is that something you think you picked up from him? Because obviously your work ethic is strong.
Yeah, no, he not to totally discredit, you know, my father, my parents. No, he was a hard worker, nonstop. Yeah. Get up first thing in the morning. He would work that job all day, every day. And then, like I said, the house we grew up in was built in 1912. So they bought this house for $69,000 with no central heat and air. The windows were broken. The wood floors had holes in them. This thing was not even livable. I don't think it was legal to live in this house. Yeah. And we bought it. They bought it to renovate it. And every day, so he worked his butt off to renovate that house. It took him 12 years, and he did all the renovations himself. A lot of people that flip houses usually end up paying someone. Yeah. My parents did all the work themselves, and they taught me how to do it too. Yeah. You know, as far as mudding walls, painting, scraping floors, resurfacing floors. Yeah. A lot of woodwork. My dad did electrical work, plumbing work. He did all that stuff himself. So they sold it, made like $300,000. Yeah. But it took them 12 years. So definitely watching, you know, him work, but also saw like how much he worked and how much of a toll it took on him. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I want to do something that I love my whole life. I don't necessarily want to, you know, I don't want my work to own me. You know what I'm saying?
So it's almost like you took the good from it, but not the bad. You kind of took the things you wanted, left the stuff that wasn't going to suit you. When you're sitting at home in what looks like a beautiful home with your kids, do you think about that at all? Or are you like, look where, because that shit runs through my head sometimes. I'm like, do you sit sometimes and think, man, I came from such and such a place, and now I've done so much better for myself. You know what I mean? Like, does that stuff kind of roll through your head when you're looking at your kids?
Oh yeah. No, I mean, straight up, I've gotten really emotional. You know, like I could go on and on about this stuff. I mean, taking showers outside, we didn't have running water sometimes, or a shower. We didn't have a shower or a bath. Yeah. It would be messed up. Like, so me and my dad would take showers outside. Yeah. So that memory though, there's many times, every single month, I'm sitting there taking a shower in my badass shower. I mean, it's not like anything. It's not anything off of like, I don't know, $1 million homes or something, but it is a nice shower, and it freaking actually sprays, and it works. And it works. And I've got my boys can actually come in there with there's a big ass space, and we'll take you know, the guys will all clean each other and take the showers. And
family shower.
But, so it's like, I got them. I mean, I have a media room upstairs. I grew up, my friends that had media rooms, I thought they were rich as hell. I thought they were I was like, man, you're rich, Tommy. You know, like, damn, your parents are rich. And back then you were, but now it's like, it's a little bit more achievable now. Where I live, especially in Texas, I mean, the economy's been great. Yeah. So like, I do, the first time that I put the media room in there, I paid like $7,500, man. It was a lot of money, but still not the $20,000. I got a great deal on this, all the speakers and the 4K projector and this 115-inch screen. And the guy was all done. I sat in there with my wife, dude, and I put on my favorite movie, which is Rudy. And man, tears was coming down my eyes. Like, it's, but stuff like that, you need to be proud of yourself. Cause I've always given myself such a hard time
Yep.
I know there's a lot of guys like me that like, you don't celebrate your accomplishments because you don't want to brag. You don't want to seem boastful. You don't want to seem like you have an ego, and you want to be humble. But sometimes, dude, with the right people, you need to just be like, hey, I'm doing pretty good so far.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think that's the nature of our sport, because we do things and it's like, okay, on to the next show or on to the next diet or time to get back to work in the gym, or it's like the moments where you stop and pause are few and far between. I find I do the same thing. Like for me, it's the home, because we didn't grow up in a big house. We grew up in a townhouse for me and 4 siblings. So it's the same kind of thing. Like, we just finished our dining room, and I'll sit in the dining room and think, man, we didn't even have a dining room growing up. Like,
dining room,
yeah, dining room, eat in the living room in front of the TV. That was where we ate. So it's just, yeah, I mean, I think it's important to step back and enjoy and be proud of kind of what you've done. So that's kind of why I want to ask that. But going back to your social media, I noticed one of the things we discussed before was your social media. Well, I already know most people, when they post on social media, is very random. And one of the things that we discussed was your posts seem to be very structured, or you do have some structure to them. So I wanted to touch on that really quickly, because I know we're going back and forth from social media to family and back, but I wanted to cover this topic because it's important that people know that these things don't just come about by accident, and you actually have a plan for what you're doing in your social media, and it's not random.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, had I not lasered in and mastered social media and like Instagram when it first came out, I might not have these kids. Because I was broke. Who knows if my wife would have married me if she would have, if I would have been broke like I was in 2011. So, social media helped me get my finances back together, and that I'm grateful for that. But there is a structure, like the structure is always changing, so people need to adapt now to what social media gives us, because when Instagram and Facebook first rolled out and you could build businesses on them, it was a free-for-all. Everyone was banking, making a ton of money. Now it's harder because of the algorithm, because of the ad spend. They want you to spend money on ads, not necessarily build yourself organically. So there's really 2 different routes. I mean, I guess there's no point in talking about when it started, because you can't do that anymore. When you first started, I would have so much better impressions and everything on my social media, right? I have more eyes per followers. I mean, even though I have more followers now, I just had an overall better percentage of engagement.
Sure.
And so now that's why I have to organize things, because I can't just throw something random up there and expect 15-20% of my followers to see it. You have to expect a super low percentage, and you have to do things in a timely manner. Like, what time of the day is good for you? What's good for you might be different for me.
Sure.
And plus managing other things. I used to have a lot more time to just wing it, and I could come up with some content and shoot a picture or shoot a video, or even had more time to think before kids. So now, I've understood, like I showed you this earlier, just basic ideas from a meeting I had about changing my content schedule. So Mondays I always have something specific. Tuesday I have a general specific idea, but it's, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're all different. But so there's a little bit of randomness, but majority of it is planned general ideas each day to be, for me, more just well-rounded. I was in that, bodybuilder box, and I was competing, and it was great. But now I have a specific agenda to be a little bit more mainstream. So, I do post family stuff on purpose, because people like that. It's not necessarily because, I like it. It's because people tend to engage better. Like, they love pictures when I post pictures of my sons. And, I was telling you earlier, even when I post something about my lifestyle or my beard recently, it's with an intent to capitalize on my market. A lot of guys are growing out their beards right now. A lot of guys don't use beard grooming products.
Yeah.
I'm endorsed and I work with a beard grooming company that it's killing it right now.
Yeah.
So I post something about my beard, but I'm not also, so I have that in my schedule, right?
So when I look at so going back, when I look at this, I also notice you're very self-deprecating. So you you post stuff like this, which is kind of making fun of yourself. Well, actually, you're making fun of your wife in this one, but it's funny that you don't mind looking like this to get a laugh, which is cool because a lot of people don't want people to be too serious. But what I noticed is, along with the humor, it's a lot of relatable stuff. But when you're posting this, somebody else might look at this page and think, okay, this is all random. And then this is a paid, he's doing this ad for this company and this ad for this company, but the rest of this stuff is all random. Is it random, or did you plan, okay, these are my workouts. I plan to, not planned like in a disingenuous way, but like, I'm going to post a picture of my son because it's relatable and other guys have kids. And are you thinking about those things before you post these images and these videos?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I kind of try to think of a ratio, and really the idea started from one of the best social media gurus, Gary Vee.
Okay.
He talks about, his book, I forget what it was Jab, Jab, Hook. And so I just kind of related that to my own life. I'm like, yeah, I understand. I mean, jab, jab, hook to me, jab, jab, hook to me means like, throw some subtle things that people can relate to that aren't over salesy and aren't pushing people away. Like the jab is made to get them to come back. And then the hook is like, okay, you might throw something a little bit more salesy. Yeah. So in reality, my ratio will be like jab, 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 hook. Yeah. Like I'm doing a lot of giving.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of things because that's what I really like. None of us really like to do like, hey, Hostile Supplements, 20% off, Black Friday special.
I know.
Whatever, buy one, get one free. Hostile, it's like, listen, guys, I made this. I know how you are. You made this stuff to be the best quality you can possibly make it. And like, you've been in the supplement industry, so you want yours to be competitive, if not better than everyone's. And so like, you don't want to have to sell it. And that's the same way I am like with my coaching, with, my sponsor, like I'm with Rain. I freaking love Rain.
Yeah.
Rain is one of those companies where they don't want you to be so salesy. They just want you to, they bring people on board who love their product, and you just got to kind of organically talk about the product and show how you use it. You don't need to sell it. And so it's a great endorsement, but that's great. But then some other companies you work with are like, man, they want you to be a salesman. And so that's where you have to get, that's where you need to read your sales book. Like, how can I sell stuff without being annoying?
Yeah.
And
sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that's a big part about social media that a lot of people don't talk about. Is like, oh, you want endorsements? Okay, well, do you know how to sell anything?
Yeah,
You know how?
But your strategy is not how most people would go about. Like if you said to somebody, do you know how to sell something? They don't realize what you said, which is, the book is jab, jab, hook, which is, give, then sell. And you realize through your social media that you can't do that. And I don't think anybody can do that. I think if every third post was a sell, people would stop following you. So you kind of had to learn your own technique, which is like give, sell. It's like 4, 5, 6 posts before you can sell. So I don't know if it's more about sales or just more about having, I think it's about sales, yes, but I also think it's about having a feel for what your followers can handle. Like all my followers know I want to tell everybody about my protein and tell everybody about my supplements, but they don't want to hear it every day. So they're like, how much can they handle? Can they handle it once a week? Can they handle it every 4 days? So it's almost like you have to find a perfect equation. Would you say? Like how much is too much?
Yeah. Like, telling is not selling. You don't want to tell them about something all the time. You show them. We both have kept our physiques, even though we've been off stage for a while. We haven't let go of ourselves. And so there's, like I don't do that on purpose. That's just my lifestyle. And so just kind of showing them what you do naturally and organically before you just have, because I honestly, I do have to kind of tone down a little bit. I'm a very big, like detailed guy. Like like we'll talk about supplements, dude. I could sit there and talk about the formulas and everything about how one product is better than the other. And we could break down flavor profiles, and we could go over so many different things because I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
My people are not that interested. They like, do you take it? Does it work? Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and someone recently told me that, you know, in our meeting, they're like, dude, you don't need to talk about formulas all the damn time. You don't need to talk about clinical dose of creatine and beta alanine and carnitine. And you don't need to talk about all these different things that most people don't give a shit about, you know? Yeah. And I hate that because like, I want people to understand why something's better. And what I've learned is that the average person, unfortunately, really doesn't care. There is, maybe, I think your podcast, you're going to have a lot of people who do care.
Yeah. It depends it's like you said, depends on the demographic. But when you have 1 million followers, do you ever think to yourself, and this may help somebody listening to who has 100 followers. When you have 1 million followers, do you think that maybe 20% of them do want to know what's in your pre-workout? They do want to know what is the clinical dose of XYZ, or do you just think, let me capture as many people as possible with each post? Or like, do you know what I mean? Like, can a post be directed at a small demographic?
There is a percentage that do want to know that. And you know where those people are? Your Facebook group.
That's right.
Those are, you know what I'm saying? So that's and this is what I've started doing about the last year and a half. Like, there's so many levels to this social media stuff nowadays, right? I mean, honestly, like you and I and all these other people who have built business, we're trying to catch up to what they've done on like TV and commercials and ads for decades, right? But now we're doing it ourselves. And even though I think like, you know, social media has the power right now as far as the overall views and impressions with ads and selling stuff, we still have a lot to learn from that old generation. Yeah. So, but yeah, like the people who do want specific, very detailed information, those are the people that are in, you know, like my Facebook group.
Man, you know what? I'm learning from you. So whoever's watching has to be learning, because now I'm learning. So I'm going to start a whole new group as soon as we get off.
You just got to get someone to manage it, because I didn't mention that to you too. Like, some people are too busy. So like, I recently have taken on my Facebook group about 8-9 months now. I'm doing it all myself. It's so much work. For the person who's got multiple businesses and multiple streams of revenues, and of course doing podcasts and all, you got to have admin that can run it. Yeah. And the cool part is, some people become so loyal in your group, you can make them an admin and you can create their title. Like, maybe you don't give them access to delete it or anything, but they have access to be able to accept posts and add new members and invite other people. And so they can be like a lower level admin. And, you know, that the Facebook groups are endless, man. We could probably do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah. Sorry. I just, I got a little selfish there. I was trying to get my own advice while I have you. Anyway,
all good.
So I want to go over one more thing before I let you go. We were talking about insulin, and I noticed on your Instagram, you posted a photo or a video of a woman that was in tears because she couldn't get insulin for less than like $1,000 or $700 or something like that. So what is your, are you just trying to create awareness for people that, look, this is what's going on? You know, this is an illness that people have that, you know, they can't afford the drugs for their kids. Like, what is it about? Is it just an awareness thing, or do you have more invested in telling people about this?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of people don't know. I haven't really been public about it, but yeah, I have been involved directly with the American Diabetes Association, certain political parties and presidential campaigns. Yeah. Even both sides. Both in America, you know, we have Republican and Democrat, two-party system. You know, I think we won't go there, but I think we need to change that. Yeah. But yeah, I was in contact with Michelle Obama, about a campaign to reduce childhood diabetes, which failed. And then also not for diabetes, but involved with Trump's campaign as well.
Okay.
So like, I'm not some political expert, but I do have a heart for things just simply being fair and affordable for everyone as far as drugs, medication, especially stuff we got to live off of. So I need insulin to live, and it's gotten just crazy high. So when I post about it, I get insane feedback because it is something that's important to everyone. And unfortunately it sucks. Like some people just God, dude, they can't have normal conversations about shit that's important. Like, dude, like why can't, like, me and you might have opposing arguments, but like, man, the social media has opened the door for people who are just stupid, man. They can say whatever they want, right?
Yeah.
And the whole point is, I just simply want insulin to be affordable. Yes, for myself, but especially for the elderly, the low income, children. And that video, that woman couldn't buy it because her prescription was $1,000. She has insurance. She's had a job for 17 years, and she can't afford to buy the insulin for her newly diagnosed kid because it's $1,000. And yes, in the States, some stuff becomes that way. It's a top tier drug. People throw insulin in there. Not all, like we talked about this earlier. Not all insulin is equal. There's like low level crap insulin, and there's top tier good quality insulin. That's what I take. I take the top tier stuff, and I put it on the post. It can go anywhere from like $700 to $2,000 a month if I paid cash. Yeah. So that was important to me because I do pay cash for insulin right now, which I had a coupon and some deductions in place when Trump was president. And now that whole post was about the new president freezing that policy, or they call it executive order. He froze it. Yeah. And I didn't think it was right to freeze anything that's going to save a lot of people money. I don't care if there's a transition from one president to another. I don't care who it is. Let's continue this executive order to make it affordable. And so, I plan to raise more awareness about it. Yeah. And, in my Facebook group, the CEO of American Diabetes Association, which is a massive organization. Yeah. She's actually a member of my Facebook group. Mm-hmm. And, it's important to me, while we're here. I mean, it's not all about just simply, for me, it's not simply about working out and bodybuilding and, cool cars and, vacations and all that stuff. Yeah. Sometimes there's some stuff that we need to talk about, and, we need to raise awareness. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now, is just raising awareness. I want everyone to understand that insulin is just insanely expensive in the States. Mm-hmm. And we need to do something about it.
Yeah. I think it's crazy that people can take an opposing position to that. Like, it's such a harmless, like, it's not a controversial thing you're saying, like drugs should be cheaper. Everybody should kind of be on board. Yeah. It is what I would think. I mean, so it's sad that you're getting.
I'll say it could be my fault. Could be my fault because I criticized Joe Biden,
the new president.
Yeah. Order. Like, okay, so I do put a lot on my back. I don't care. I will try to put things very gently. But you're always going to offend people with whatever. If you criticize someone and someone likes that person, then they're going to hate you for criticizing them. Yeah. But the point, like you said, the main goal, I don't care who's president. I just want affordable insulin. Mm-hmm. And we're going to continue to talk about it. I'm going to continue to post about it. Obviously, the engagement was crazy high on that post. It's something that people care about, both diabetic and not. Yeah. So, we're gonna raise some awareness for sure this year.
Okay. Well, listen, before you go, you mentioned cars a couple times, and I'm a car freak. What are you driving? I have to know.
Dude, I went.
You said you were going to buy a truck, Texas. But I never.
Yeah,
heard.
I went. Well, where I live in Texas is like Truckville. There's, it's not. I'm not in Dallas anymore. I'm at the top of the Metroplex suburb. It's a fast growing city with construction everywhere. So like, I had some cool cars, and I sold them because they're just not practical where I live. There's like nails in the street.
What did you have? Okay, what did you have?
I had a Porsche Panamera GTS. Okay.
Nice.
And that's a driver's car. Like, yeah. I never in my life thought I would have any type of Porsche. Yeah. So I had that, and man, that thing was fast as hell and smooth, and it's just a nice car, loud. Yeah. It's a Porsche, all the buttons inside. It was just a great car. And then Then I went and actually got the new G-Wagon.
Nice.
And it was crazy. Like I was, I don't know. I had to kind of check myself because I got my wife an Escalade. I got a Porsche. And then when I went to go to the G-Wagon, I didn't even turn in the Porsche because I refused to trade it in because they were going to give me a shit deal. So I just kept it.
Yeah.
Like here I am. I'm like, dude, this is not for me. And I'm very honest. Like I'm not that materialistic.
Wait, I found it. Boom. That's not, is that it?
That's me selling it.
No, you can't sell that. It's beautiful.
I know, man. But here's what I say.
Yeah.
I'm very, very, dude, I will critical of myself, right? Next time I get that, I'll buy it cash. All right.
Okay.
Next time I get it, I'll buy it cash because it was a step for me just being a poor kid and also having not a dime to my name in 2011 to 2020, buying a brand new, G-Wagon that people are on a list for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I got that car in 4 months. I built it online. My friend at Mercedes expedited it, put me above everyone like PGA golfers and NHL and NFL guys, right? And I got mine super fast.
Yeah.
So the only reason I bought it too was because I knew I could make money. So I drove that thing for over a year, put 11,000 miles on it, and sold it for $20,000 more than I paid for it.
Nice.
So I had paid a little consignment fee to the guy who sold it for me, like $4,000, but I walked away and made $16,000 off the car.
In my world, if you can get out of a car and not lose money, then you're way ahead. If you make money, that's a unicorn. Because that doesn't happen very often. So
it's super rare.
Yeah.
But so I mean, it wasn't hard to let go of it either. I mean, only because where I live, I couldn't keep it clean. Yeah. I've got twin boys that will tear it up. I got a new big ass dog. He's my best friend, but I couldn't put him in it because he would drool and tear it up. So it just wasn't practical for me anymore. So I sold both his cars, and I'm happy to. And now I drive a diesel truck up here, and that's what I saw. You got your diesel truck. I was like, oh, you went with Ford. I went with GMC.
What do you think? You like it?
Yeah.
Are you gonna lift it, or are you leaving it stock?
No, I'm gonna lift it.
All right.
I'm gonna lift it. I'm working on. I want to get in the truck world, so I'm working on sponsorships. I got like 4 sponsors on board.
You're gonna get sponsors for like truck mods?
I gotta try, man.
I tried that. They're like, your market's more bodybuilding. I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, it's still followers. But no, it's that's cool though. Listen, I appreciate you taking the time, man. I know we had kind of a messed up day, but I appreciate you coming back and kind of finishing up the podcast, and it was great.
Yeah, man. No problem at all, man. It's always, I'm honored to be on board. So yeah, I was grateful to come on here. So appreciate your time. All right, man. Too.
We'll do it again soon, hopefully. And I appreciate the time, Jason. Thank you so much.
Okay, brother.
All right, man.
Good night.
You too.
Later.
Bye-bye. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, share with your friends, and like the video. And if you get a chance, check out the description for all the different links to all the different places you can find Hostile and myself. And lastly, check out hostile.com for our new line of supplements and all of our apparel and gear. Thanks again for watching.